Okay, so I'll present Campus France first. So again, my name is Natalie Cox. I'm the Deputy Director of Campus France USA. Campus France USA is a French government organization that exists all over the world in about 120 countries. We are responsible for the promotion of French higher education abroad, for orienting international students, in this case in the US, who would like to pursue either study abroad for a short program in France, or who would like to pursue degree programs in France. We are based in Washington, DC at the French Embassy. And we work with about 9,000 students every year who go to France to study. And in total, from the United States, there are a little over 17,000 US students who study abroad in France every year. Most of them, and many of them from Puerto Rico as well. And most of them go to France to study for a semester or an academic year within the context of their bachelor's program or graduate program in a university here. But about 1,500 US students go to France to pursue degrees. And many of them in art and cinema, which we'll talk about today. And Campus France works with all of those students to help them navigate French higher education, to present them with tools that can be useful as they understand their options in French universities and institutions, and really navigate within those options and make an informed selection about the degree program they're choosing. So we do that in a number of ways. And one of the ways we do that is we offer, Campus France offers a series of very practical online tools that can that really bring the entirety of the offer of French higher education together in one platform and allow international students to understand the degree programs that are available for them. And so the purpose of my presentation today is to meet all of you, to let you know that Campus France USA exists, and we're here to help you. We're here to guide you through your process of researching potential study opportunities in France. And I will also show you some of these tools online that you can get started using even tonight, if you so choose. I think that many of you who are joining us in this conversation are already in the process of maybe doing some research, and if you're also a viewer of the film festival, I'm sure that you know a little bit about French film and European film. But so why would one want to study film in France, to study cinema in France? Well, France has a very robust film industry with very strong support from the government. They're particularly known for innovation across genres of film, and also in new media. France is really at the forefront, and especially in terms of their higher education system, they're really at the forefront of training future professionals, not only for a variety of roles in film, but also in new media such as game design, virtual reality, animation, and really a lot of other forms of new media. France has been long known as a place where artists come together, and it's really at the heart of Europe and at the heart of the world in terms of being in a country where you have an artistic culture that kind of permeates all levels of society and all aspects of society. And it's really not only just a European hub, but a global hub for filmmakers and artists from around the world. And it's really a fairly exciting place to study cinema if you're just getting started. France is the largest film industry in Europe in terms of films produced each year, and is the world's second largest exporter of film after the US. After all, the first motion picture projection was successfully completed by the Lumière brothers in 1895 in Lyon. And really from that time, France has really built a global reputation for a strong film industry, and really a very exciting, very enriching place to get started in your career. So that being said, why would you choose France to study? Well, there are really a lot of opportunities to study film in France. And the purpose of this conversation is not to recommend one institution or one program over another, but really inform you of the tools that exist to help you navigate your options. And then my colleagues and I at Campus France would be more than happy to help you as you make some decisions over the coming months. France is one of the most affordable higher education systems in the world as well. Tuition fees are relatively affordable and relatively accessible. Tuition at the French in French public universities, and there are many cinema and audiovisual degree programs offered in French public universities or private. There are about 70 French public universities. When you're doing your research, anything that's called université is a public institution, which is that terminology is quite different from the US system. So anything that's a université is a public university. And at French public universities, tuition is set by the government and will be consistent among all public universities. And it's relatively low. So at the undergraduate level, and I mention this because many of you maybe are seriously considering applying for the next academic year, tuition in French public universities for international students at the undergraduate level is about 2,700 euros per year at the undergraduate level, so pursuing a licence program. In France, the higher education system follows an LMD structure. So their undergraduate program, or a licence, is a 3-year undergraduate degree. That's followed by a master's programs. Those are 1 to 2 years, typically 2 years, depending on the field of study. And following that is a possibility to pursue a doctoral degree. And depending on the field of study, doctoral degrees can be an additional 3 to 6 years after the master's degree. So at the undergraduate level, like I mentioned, for international non-European students, tuition is just under 3,000 euros per year. At the master's level, it's just under 4,000 euros per year. And at the doctoral level for international students, the tuition fees in public universities are very affordable. It's just under $400 per year. So these are tuition fees in public universities. Tuition varies greatly in private institutions. So you would want to just inform yourself if you're looking at private schools or private art schools inquire about the tuition, because it will be different than in public institutions. As I mentioned, there are 73 public universities in France that offer a broad range of degree programs, and there are actually 45 public schools of art in France. Not all of them offer programs in audiovisuel or audiovisual studies, including film and cinema, and all of the various trainings that would lead to careers in that field. But there are 45 public art schools in France, and I'll show you how to review those and how to kind of navigate yourself within those soon. Another thing that I would mention, Kai mentioned that the Alliance Française in Puerto Rico offers the DELF and the DELF. We very much encourage students to go ahead and take that exam to obtain that diploma, the diplôme. So typically, it really varies by program, but if the academic program is taught in French, typically students do need to present results from a DELF or a DELF exam, sometimes the TCF exam, the Test de connaissance du français, but as Kai mentioned, the DELF and the DELF are preferable both for you as an individual and for the institutions, because it's a diploma that's valid for life. There's no expiration date. So if you find a DELF C1 exam and you pass, you obtain a C1 diploma that's valid for life. It really depends on the program, but I would say typically for programs taught in French, you do need to be proficient in French and you need to prove that. So the institution or the program may request that you present B2 French proficiency, sometimes even C1. You would want to do a little independent research to find out what the French proficiency requirements are, but it's something that we very much suggest, whether you're hoping to study cinema in France or hoping to study something else. Even just for you personally, if you are taking French classes at the Alliance or if you are taking French classes at your university, it's useful to have that diploma. That being said, French universities and French higher education in general has really invested in recent years in offering some degree programs that are taught in English. And this is to attract top students from around the world who may not be proficient in French, but it's also to prepare some of the French students that are in these degree programs for careers in other non-Francophone countries and contexts. So there are a number of degree programs taught in English in French institutions. Specifically, there are around 1,600 degree programs in French institutions taught in English, with English as the language of instruction. And some of them are in the film and cinema, and I'll show you how to find those soon. Great. So what I would like to do now, I think we reviewed, generally just to give you a sense of the kind of international student flow to France. There are about 350,000 international students that study in France every year, most of them in undergraduate or graduate degree programs. Actually, a large portion, I believe it's about 40% of doctoral students in France are international students. So really a very diverse higher education I guess, ecosystem and a very diverse student community. So I think one of the attractions of French higher education too is not just to be in France and to have access to the academic expertise or to learn French, but really to be part of a very international academic community. I think that's one of the big draws for students all over the world, as well as just to be a part of a very international community. And so with that, I think I covered my kind of introduction. I will move on to show you some of the interactive tools that we offer, that Campus France manages, that can help you understand, okay, among the within this higher education ecosystem, how do I really narrow down my options, and how do I find a program in art, in film, that really fits my needs. So I'll present a number of tools, and the first tool I will present is a platform and advising service called Campus Art. So Campus Art is an initiative of Campus France. It's an online searchable database of art degree programs offered by French institutions. And it's also a common application for international students to apply for admission to these art programs. And it's really a wonderful service because many art programs in a number of fields require their French applicants to submit a portfolio, to pass a competitive entrance examination, to complete an interview process with the institution. And a lot of that presented some obstacles for international applicants, getting the portfolio in the right format to the institution, completing an in-person exam that sometimes was in another country. So this Campus Art really brings together a network of art schools that kind of harmonize their admissions process, and also make it easier for international students to see the programs that are offered for them. So Campus Art right now is a network of around 400 degree programs in across domains in schools in France. And as an international applicant, you can use the Campus Art database to search programs, and you can also submit your application for admission. And you can apply to multiple programs with just one application, and there's no fee to search programs, to submit an application, to be admitted. There's a one-time fee for this service only if you as an applicant decide to actually accept an admissions offer from one of the schools you applied to that accepted you. If you decide to accept that admissions offer and actually register at the school, there's a one-time fee for that. But there's no fee to utilize the search tool. There's no fee to apply, and there's no fee to be admitted. So this really does help applicants. Again, it's a common application, so you can apply to, I believe, up to 10 programs, degree programs, and with just one application, and it's really a harmonized process in terms of submission of the portfolio. So what I will do now is I will show you I will show you the platform. So just bear with me for 1 minute. Mm. Okay. All right. So we're here on the Campus Art platform. It's campus art, campusart.org. So you can make a note of that. Just for reference, it's also on our website, usa.campusfrance.org, under academics and advising and researching degree programs. So just helping you navigate this. If you search on our website, researching degree and certificate programs, you'll scroll down on the page and you'll see a listing of all of our catalogs. So these are online searchable databases made specifically for international students to help them understand French higher education. On this list of catalogs, you'll see Campus Art. As I mentioned, it's a network of over 600 degree programs in art, music, fashion, design, architecture, and cinema. That's the network is facilitated by Campus France. So you'll find yourself at the Campus Art platform. And what you'll do is scroll up to the top here and you'll click find your program. Okay. You can see all of the members, all of the institutional members of the Campus Art Network here on this page, on the Find Your Program page. And you can take a look at those schools just to kind of browse and see which schools are part of this network. But what you can do here is search field of study. And for example, select cinema. And you'll be taken to a searchable catalog of art degree programs across a number of domains. So here you'll see all of the domains of study. I've clicked cinema here, and you can see there are 65 out of over 600. And these are all of these listings are degree programs in French schools. So there are 65 degree programs that are part of the Campus Art Network. There are actually more than that, but not all of them are part of the Campus Art Network. And you can see, you can scroll down and you can see all of these options. Now, you can also search by niveau du diplôme. So if you're looking for an undergraduate degree, you would look at, maybe you want to look at classe préparatoire, which is a very intense post high school training for students who want to enter competitive programs later on. But you may want to look for a licence, which is an undergraduate degree. I would suggest looking at licence 3 because that's the typical length of a licence. A licence professionnelle is a little bit of a different licence structure that is more vocational and more technical. You can also look at master's programs. Again, you can, M1 is a 1-year master, M2 is a 2-year master, but I would click both because some of them may be presented as M2, but you may be able to do just 1 year. Postmaster, doctoral, or other diplomas. So you can also search by level of study here by clicking one of these boxes. Domain, we've clicked cinema here. Spécialité, so these are specializations within the domain. If you'd like to click one of these, you can, but I think I would just, for now, I would just leave it at cinema. You can also search by French proficiency required. So if you're a beginner, you could click this box and you may find some programs that are taught in English. I already see some of them that have English as the language of instruction. Or if you're intermediate or advanced, you can search by these search criteria. Niveau d'études requis. This is the prerequisites. So baccalaureate is a high school diploma. Some programs might require that you have 1 or 2 years of undergraduate study already completed. Anyway, I would just leave that blank so you can see all of the programs. Statut de l'établissement, public, private, or a private sector institution. Label Bienvenue en France, I think is, Label Bienvenue en France is a French government initiative of the Ministry of Higher Education and Campus France that recognizes institutions that have a very high level of international student services. So this label or certification, there are 102 schools in France that have this label Bienvenue en France. And if they have the label, it means that they've met a certain number of very rigorous criteria and have shown that they meet a certain standard for hosting international students. So this means that maybe they have a peer buddy system, placing international students with French students for at least the first semester to kind of facilitate their integration. It could mean that they have a designated staff and a designated team on campus that helps international students do things like find housing and open a bank account and understand their health insurance and all of these life things that you need to do as an international student. So you can look on our website. We've listed all of the indicators for this label, but it's I do suggest that let's see, there are a few institutions, let's see, 5 degree programs and institutions that have the label Bienvenue en France in cinema. So if that's something that's really important to you, that you be sure that the institution will have this structure in place to really support international students and go above and beyond, then you can search by the schools that have the label Bienvenue en France. Great. I don't know if there are any questions at this point in the chat or in the live thing.
Yes. Hi, Natalie. I have a few. In terms of if I don't want to study, I know that you mentioned, like through Campus France, through the website, you can research and search for different institutions. Now, what if I'm looking not necessarily the institution, but looking to study in an art hubs? Are any other art hubs aside from Paris in France? And if I want to study there, does tuition differ from one region to another?
That's a really wonderful question. And no, tuition does not differ from one region to another. Tuition might differ from one school to another, depending on if you're looking at a private school or a public school. And in terms of other art hubs in France, there are many. So you might think about other large-ish cities in France, such as Lyon or Bordeaux or Toulouse. And I would just suggest that students do a little bit of research on their own, and I'll actually share, we have quite a bit of resources, quite a few resources on French cities and regions from a student perspective. So I'll share with you the resources that we have. I'll share my screen. Here we go. So what I would suggest students do is, and that's a really great question about the regions. Yeah, I think that definitely larger cities outside of Paris, such as Lyon, Toulouse, Bordeaux, Montpellier. Obviously, there's a large university that just a large university in the south of France, Université de Côte d'Azur, that has very good programs in art. What I would suggest students do is do a little bit of independent research on definitely looking outside of Paris as well, and maybe understanding, looking into, definitely thinking outside of the Paris region. Some resources that we have at Campus France are these informative fiches ville. So for most larger cities in France, Campus France has put together informational packets on each city from a student perspective, maybe not necessarily from a perspective of what's happening in the film industry in these cities, or what's happening in the art scene in these cities, but I think these are really useful to help students understand a little more about the city. So this is at Campus France. Actually, we put together a little research sheet, and maybe we can share it with the participants after, but these are all found on the Campus France website.
Lovely. Natalie, I have Ana Cabrera in the Q&A section asking us, is there a way that I could apply to programs directly from high school?
Yes, definitely. So you would apply to enter an undergraduate program in France. So you might want to consider looking at licence programs. So using the Campus Art catalog that we just looked over, you would look at licence programs and see what's available. Aside from and so, if once you earn your high school diploma, you you've completed the prerequisites to enter into French higher education. Each of these programs may have their own prerequisites. So for example, let's take a look at one of these licence programs at l'École supérieure d'études cinématographiques. Okay. So this is a licence program that I'm looking at. When you click on the program in the Campus Art catalog, you'll have this kind of informational flyer. You can also look at the fiche établissement. So each school has another kind of informational flyer, and you can really get a lot of details within these searchable catalogs. And understand their offers. But let's see. So yeah, in the licence, so for you, Anna, if you're getting ready to graduate high school, so let's say you're in your last year of high school, or if it's coming up, you would want to start preparing your application the year before you hope to apply. So for Campus Art, the application period is typically from November to February of a given year. This year it was extended a little bit, but typically applications are open from November to February for the following year. So for 2021, 2022, this year coming right up, applications were open November 2020 to February 2021. So you'd get your application together. You would want to make sure that you meet all of the prerequisites of the program. So for example, this one has, let's see, niveau d'études requis. Well, this one's entering in the third year. So you would want to find out with the institution which year of the program you would enter, but you would enter in year one if you just have a high school diploma. You would want to make sure that you have the French proficiency requirements, so and have taken either the TCF, like I mentioned, or obtained a DELF or DELF diploma. and then you would go ahead and apply. And you're absolutely qualified, if to apply to enter right after high school. Absolutely.
I have a follow-up question, Natalie. In terms of like the license L1, 2, 3, let's say that I want to apply for like the program that I want is an L3, for example. Does that mean that I need to first be in France and study like license 1, license 2, and then get into the license 3, or is there any way that I can just pop in and go directly to the program that I wish?
Yeah, so this, this platform, I think there's definitely a way you can just start in the first year. So many of the licence programs you start in L1. Just a very technical point, some of these programs will say that they're L3, but that just means it's a 3-year program and you can enter in year 1. So it doesn't mean that you're only entering at year 3. I think the previous example I used was it indicated a little bit differently. But for example, this is a licence. It's a 3-year licence, and your niveau d'études requis is a baccalaureate or equivalent. So that's a baccalaureate is the equivalent of a high school diploma in the Puerto Rican or the American system. So there are many programs where you can enter in the first year. Yeah. Yeah.
There you go. I'm not sure, Anna, I'm not sure if you have any other questions. Looking for, here at Facebook, I don't see any other questions from our viewers.
Natalie, I actually have some questions. First, some practical ones. You know, the COVID situation is evolving constantly, and France is on a different track than the US. When are what's the situation in the French universities? Are they going to be reopening? How are they welcoming foreign students? How is that going? And what can a foreign student expect over the next academic year for 2021, 2022?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great question. So French higher education has really, since the onset of the pandemic last March, they've really prioritized international students and allowing international students from all over the world to come to France and to continue their studies, to continue their degree programs, to start degree programs in France. So even in the context of travel restrictions that are still in place, students have been designated as an exception, as a category of exception to the travel restrictions, and student visas have been issued since last August for students from the US going to France. So really, and international students from all over the world have been able throughout the entirety of the pandemic to travel to France to pursue their studies. So really, even in the context of travel restrictions, borders really have been open for students who are whose studies in France are considered essential and whose travels are considered essential travel. In French institutions, there's a preparation for entirely in-person learning in the fall. We're still following closely the vaccine campaign and the evolution of the public health situation in France and in Europe, but French universities are preparing for a rentrée, the kind of back to school season of entirely in-person learning again. So the restrictions right now, the only kind of big restriction that remains in place as of today is the fact that no short-term study is permitted and no short-term travel. So students that want to study for the summer in a French school for 2 months or a month are not permitted to travel to France. If you want to travel to France for academic purposes, the program needs to be over 90 days and you need to apply for a student visa. So that's maybe that answered your question about the travel restrictions. And then really the conditions in each university really depends on the institution. I would encourage students to reach out directly to the institutions in France and to kind of understand the more pedagogical plan. But generally French higher ed is really preparing for a return to in-person on-campus learning for the fall.
Excellent, thank you. It's a great answer. On a related note, are there any online programs currently available? I've seen those from other European countries that you can do your whole degree online or partially online from abroad.
Yes, there are. So let me show you again. Thank you for asking that question. Let me show you again my screen. Again, going back to our website, researching degree and certificate programs in France. This is on Campus France USA website. You'll see that there's a new catalog called Online and Hybrid Programs. So a new searchable catalog, everyone will be familiar with this format. And these are online degree programs, online and hybrid. But you can actually, so you can see that there are 674 degree programs that are offered entirely online or with a hybrid component. And you can actually, in type of program, you can actually sort and formation à distance et en présentiel. So that's a hybrid program. We want to look at formation complète à distance, 326 degree programs taught online. Again, you can search by domain. So I'll look at art, and then you could look here and kind of browse the degree programs that are offered online. So there's been a huge amount of progress and development just over the past couple of years to offer full degree programs online, and this is a really useful tool for international students to understand those programs. I recommend looking at this tool to friends who are considering grad school and are looking maybe in the US, but in other countries too, and I make sure that they have this link. So hopefully this is useful to some of you watching.
Excellent. That's really a great resource. I did have a small question that could be perhaps helpful to someone. I noticed that in your initial search it showed private school options and public university options. Obviously, it's very well known that the public universities are very, very affordable. Is there a difference price structures for private institutions, or say a private photography studio that offers some kind of certification program? Do those prices vary greatly from the public offerings?
They vary, but I would say they're not systematically astronomically more expensive. So there are absolutely really excellent private institutions that maybe have tuition fees. I mean, really, it does vary, but who maybe have tuition fees that could be up to 10,000 euros a year or something like that. But relative to the price structure in the US, for example, or in other countries, it still ranks as relatively accessible.
Excellent. Harold, did you have any other additional questions that have come to mind?
Well, I was just thinking, let's say that I finished my diploma in France. Is there any statistic about how many foreigners, especially US citizens, are able to stay in France and keep working after studying? Are there opportunities for foreigners?
Definitely. I don't have the statistics in terms of numbers, but there are a number of kind of pathways in place that help international students who've done an undergraduate or graduate degree in France to stay in France and look for a job in the French.
So those ones do internships, for example.
Yeah, there are absolutely internships, and many degree programs, especially at the master's level, have obligatory internships that are built into the structure of the program. So if it's a 2-year master's program, there may be a required 6-month stage or internship at the end of the program that would really help all students, but especially international students, connect with potential employers. And then I will mention that there's an opportunity for international students who are in France on and complete a degree program to apply for what's called a provisional kind of it's
working visa.
Yeah, it's a provisional work visa, but it allows you to stay in France for up to 1 year following your degree program, so following your graduation, without necessarily having a job right away or having a contract right away. So this is a provisional resident permit that allows you to stay in France for up to 1 year and look for a job. So during that time, it does present a little bit of a grace period that's really important for students. If anybody's ever graduated anywhere, you need time to kind of get your foot in the job market and in your industry. So there is a possibility to stay in France for up to 1 year without having a job in place, to be able to job search. And in many cases, your university can help you connect with potential internships. And like I mentioned, in many cases, the internship's actually compulsory, especially at the graduate level. So that's really useful for international students. These are very professional programs that I think emphasize a lot the placement within the job market in this industry.
All right, but that's it. I don't have any other questions. I'm not sure if Ana Cabrera, who is with us, have any other questions. Kai?
Yeah, maybe just as a closing question. So does Campus France offer any resources for potential students to learn about success stories from foreign students who have graduated from the French university system? I know there's a site called France Alumni. How can people find about people who have navigated this whole other national system of education?
Yeah, that's a really wonderful question. So we do have an alumni network, a global alumni network for international students who have studied in France and are now working all over the world. And it's called France Alumni. And there is a USA network. There's France Alumni USA. And right now there are almost 20,000 members of this alumni network. So I encourage those of you who are watching today to visit the France Alumni USA website. And you can also search, to find students who have graduated in a particular field or who are living in a particular region. I think that's a great tool. I also always suggest something a little more mainstream. I always suggest that students just do a little bit of research, for example, on LinkedIn, and absolutely, potentially look up some of the employers that you're potentially interested in. If you meet anybody in your field that you think has an interesting job, ask them about their educational pathway, do a little bit of research on LinkedIn. Even if you're interested in a particular school in France or anywhere really, you can also search on LinkedIn for graduates of those schools, take a look at what they're doing, take a look at their background, and you can really learn a lot from just talking with individuals, but also by doing a little bit of LinkedIn research, because I think LinkedIn is a really robust platform for kind of understanding, okay, so in terms of my career, I'd like to be in this type of role, in this type of organization in the next couple of years. How do I get there? What are the degrees that people get? Where do they study? So yeah, I think that I would recommend using the France Alumni USA resource, but also using things like LinkedIn.
One last question. While in France tuition is really cheap, are there any way that through Campus France students can look for scholarships to assist them to live their daily life and do groceries and pay rent in France?
Yes. So we do have a web page on a page on our website that brings together quite a few grants and scholarships for international students studying in France. So I definitely recommend that you go to our usa.campusfrance.org website and navigate to funding, and you'll see the grants and scholarships page. And there are really a lot of options. On that page, you'll also see some of the scholarship opportunities that the embassy facilitates. That includes funding for students hoping to study abroad, and they could be studying film. There are some scholarships for students pursuing degrees, but also some French institutions also accept, they have an agreement with the US Department of Education to accept federal student loans. So look on our website in the funding page about that, and always check with the school to ask about loans and about other scholarships that they would recommend.
Lovely. Thank you, Natalie.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Natalie. Thank you, Harold, for joining us. Just a reminder, Natalie Cox is with Campus France USA. You can visit their website at usa.campusfrance.org. If you would like to watch some previous discussions on Campus French in Spanish, please visit afpuertorico.org, and please continue to watch the Puerto Rico European Film Festival, Festival de Cine Europeo de Puerto Rico, at festivaldeCineEuropeo.com. Thank you so much, Natalie, for joining us.
Thank you so much, Kai. Thank you, Harold. Muchas gracias.
Ciao, merci, au revoir.
Merci, au revoir.